Hello, everyone, and welcome to Popping the Popcorn. I'm your host, Katie, and today I will be talking about what movies mean to me. So, as a little kid, my family and we would always go on Friday nights to Blockbuster, and we would all rent a movie that we all really wanted to watch, like the new releases. Who remembers Blockbuster? Everybody does, right? So, um, so my parents would pick out a movie. My mom would always pick out like a romantic comedy or like a romantic movie. My dad would always pick out an action movie, and I would always pick out a Disney movie. And my brother would always pick out like some weird like cartoon movie. And we would all get some popcorn and candy and sit around the living room and get nice and comfy and watch movies together, and it was a lot of fun. So, movies to me means family and friends getting around and sitting together and watching a good movie. Sometimes they're not so good, and sometimes they are. Um, so, also, movies mean like if you're having a bad day, you can just like watch something to get out of whatever's going on that day for a couple of hours, and you could always watch a comedy or something like that. Also, I will tell you in this episode a few of my favorite movies as well. A couple of them are Goodfellas is my number one favorite like mobster movie that came out in 1990, and it has Ray Liotta, um, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, and it's just one of those really good mobster movies. Martin Scorsese is the director, and I just really like his stuff that he does. Um, I really like The Departed as well. That's one of Martin Scorsese's movies too, but that came out in like later on in the 2000s. Um, and it has Alec Baldwin, Mark Wahlberg, and Leonardo DiCaprio, and that's a good movie as well. Um, Another one of my favorite movies growing up that my mom and I used to watch is Beauty and the Beast. That's why I like Princess Belle so much, is because her personality is like mine, and she really likes to read books, and I do too. And she's just like when Gaston is bothering her, she's like, "No, I'm not gonna marry you," and she doesn't really like Gaston and stuff like that, and she just kind of reminds me of myself sometimes. Um, but also movies mean to me is just sitting down and just watching like a classic movie like Casablanca. That was like a long time ago movie, and it's just such a good old classic film. And that's when like film like started in like the early days, and how it was like in black and white, and how they just did different films and stuff like that. And I really like black and white movies from the old days because those were like the pioneer days of movies, and they were silent. Some of them were like silent because they didn't have sound back then. So they would just have like music in there and stuff like that. And um, so black and white movies are pretty cool to watch just to see like movies in general, how they used to be or stuff like that. And then also another one of my favorite movies growing up is when Pixar started, and Toy Story was like one of my favorite movies as well because you got to see like a computer animated thing for the first time, and that was really cool. And who doesn't love Buzz and Woody and Andy, and how Buzz and Woody go on like a journey because they are lost and Andy's looking for them. And that's another one of my favorite movies as well. Also, another one of my favorite movies is The Notebook. My mom and I would watch that because she was a huge Nicholas Sparks books fan, and so we would watch The Notebook together, and The Notebook's a cute love story between two people, and it has Ryan Gosling and Amy McAdams in that movie, and or Rachel McAdams, Rachel McAdams, and it was just a all around good raw it was like a dramedy, but it was also a romantic movie. And they pretty much loved each other, but they had like a love and hate relationship. And so that movie really means a lot to me because that's something that I could watch with my mom when she was here. And my dad and we'd watch Star Wars or Indiana Jones together. So those movies mean a lot to me as well. Um, and Star Wars is just like one of those universes that's like a sci-fi, and it's like for everybody, really. It's for the whole family to enjoy, and you get to see like what it's like to like have outer space stuff, and that's really cool, and different planets and stuff like that. And then Indiana Jones is a fun adventure to go on. My favorite one from Star Wars is Empire Strikes Back. That's my favorite one. And then out of Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite movie. And Indiana Jones is just really cool because it has a lot of history in there, and it's just a fun adventure to go on too. And then growing up as like a teenager, one of my favorite movies was Clueless, and I like the line "as if," and like you could tell that it was like a '90s show because of the costumes that they wore and stuff like that, and it's just about like how kids in the '90s were and how different teens were back then, and they wanted to do stuff and their parents wouldn't let them, and they would go to house parties and things like that. And every teen back then could relate to that kind of thing. So I also really like that movie, and that means a lot to me because I was growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s. And another one of the movies that I used to watch all the time was called Now and Then, and that's a really good movie about friendship and how these girls were there for the summer, and they were friends for a long time, and they go on this adventure, and the movie flashes back from like when they're adults and getting back together, and then it flashes back to when they were kids and growing up in like I think it was the 70s, and how for one summer they went on this adventure to try to find out who Dear Johnny was, and that's also a really good movie. I think it came out in the late 90s, and that's a really good movie. My mom and I used to watch that one together. And I also really like Ninja Turtles. I grew up with the Ninja Turtle movies. Raphael's my favorite Ninja Turtle. I always wanted to be like him and be like a cool dude, you know. And then him always then the Ninja Turtles always getting disciplined by Splinter and the evil villain Shredder. I don't like the newer Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with Megan Fox as much as the original ones, but that's okay. So I also grew up with Emperor's New Groove. I think when that one came out, I was like 13 or 14, I think, and that was a really good movie, and I really enjoyed it. Everything. And Emperor's New Groove is when Cusco gets turned into a llama, and he kind of before that he's kind of self-centered, and then as he becomes a llama he grows and he's the king of the kingdom, and Yzma and Kronk are trying to rule the kingdom. And I really like the line, pull the lever, Kronk, and he goes down the chute, and it's just a funny scene. And so that's one of my favorite movies as well. I know it's a Disney movie. Well, I am a huge Disney fan, so I do like Disney, but I also like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings as well. Um, but my favorite Harry Potter movie, as we speak about Harry Potter, is the Half Blood Prince, because you learn about Snape a lot, and he's just a complex character, and I just really like him. And then there's Lord of the Rings. My favorite one out of the Lord of the Rings is Return of the King, because Fellowship of the Ring's kind of boring. I understand that they have to build up the movie or whatever, but that one's kind of boring to me. And then the Two Towers is when some of the action starts to ramp up, but that one I like better than Fellowship of the Ring, but I don't really like them too much. And then and then the and then forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, movies just I also really like how the directors and stuff tell the actors and actresses where to go, how to do it, and everything like that. I also really love movie scores. One of my favorite movie score people um, is Hans Zimmer. He does really good really good movie scores. Um, he did Hans Zimmer has done Dune, Interstellar, Gladiator. Um, he did Pirates of the Caribbean, Inception, The Dark Knight. He's done a couple really good movies. I also really like John Williams as a movie composer. He does really good movie scores. He's did Schindler's Creek, Leaders of the Lost Ark, Star Wars, A New Hope. He did Jurassic Park, E.T., and he's also a really good composer as well. And movie composers are, I think they're like the heart of the movie. They can know when it's going to be like they keep the tempo up if it's going to be like a drama scene, or like in a horror movie if the killer is going to kill, they put up the tempo. And I just think that they're like the heart of the movie a little bit, because they always do something like that. My favorite horror movie is the Rob Zombie Halloween. I mean, like, I like the other Halloween movies too, but I like his version better, because his version, he does a backstory of who Michael is, and it's just a good, like, round story, I think, in my opinion. And so that's my favorite horror movie. I mean, like, I like horror movies. I like any type of movie, really, as long as it's like a good movie. I mean, like, there are a couple movies that I don't really like too much, but most of the time when I rate movies, I rate them 10 being the highest and 1 being the lowest, but most of the time I don't rate a movie as a 1, just because I know how much work goes into making the movie, and how much time is spent, because some movies take years to make, so I just don't do anything like that. Like that when I rate movies, when you see me rate movies on Facebook or Instagram, I just don't rate them like that. And another one of my favorite movies is the Titanic, because we went and saw that in a movie theater as a family, and I love going to the movie theater as a kid. The smell of fresh popcorn, I know that's weird, but I do like the smell of fresh popcorn. And just being in a movie theater and the surround sound and seeing it on the big screen gives you really, like, it's really nostalgic to me, because we used to go to the movies all the time, but nowadays, with everything happening, I don't really go to the movie theater as much. And then I used to work in a movie theater, which was pretty cool, because you got to see how the movie theater ran stuff, and that was really neat. I used to be in the box office, so I would ring up people's tickets. I've done ushering, where you clean up after all the movies. That's not fun at all, but somebody has to do it. I've also been in the projection room, where you used to have movie reels and you had to put them together. And sometimes some people would make the movie backwards and you had to redo it, and they would use scotch tape to put the movie from beginning to end together on the reel. But nowadays they have DVD players and they just put it up on the projection screen. But this was in the early 2000s, so you had to snip the movie and put it on the reel, which was pretty cool to do. And then I've also worked the concession stand, where you give everybody their popcorn and drinks and stuff like that, and that's really fun, because you can ask the customer. I used to ask the customer, "Oh, what movie are you seeing?" Because when I worked in the movie theater, we used to get free movies and free popcorn. So now I don't really eat popcorn as much, but that's how we that's how we that's how I became also a movie lover, by just working in a movie theater, and just getting like um just getting free movies and free movie posters. That was pretty cool. My room used to have like a whole bunch of movie posters, because I would get them for free. And I remember when The Dark Knight, that's also one of my favorite Batman movies. I'm more of a Marvel person, but out of DC, that was one of my favorite movies, because I do, excuse me, I do like Christopher Nolan movies. And The Dark Knight came out, and that is like my all-time favorite Joker, is Heath Ledger's Joker. And that movie was really good, and I actually got to keep the Dark Knight poster from that movie, and that was really cool. It was like a really big poster, so part of my room on the wall would, like, the whole poster would be like on the wall, which was pretty cool. And I like Christian Bale as Batman. He did a pretty good job, but I also like Michael Keaton's Batman as well. But yeah, out of DC, that's like one of my favorite movies is The Dark Knight. And then out of DC, my favorite movie was Wonder Woman. That's the only other DC movie that I liked was the first Wonder Woman movie, because I liked how it was directed and made and everything. And that was a really good movie. But also my passion for movies came from just being around movies so much and just watching them at home with my family or by myself, or going the Blockbuster I used to go to, actually. Everybody knew me because I would be in there so much buying movies and stuff like that. And I would always go on days when the new releases would come out. I would always rent, not watch, rent the new releases because I always wanted to see what kind of new releases or what kind of new movies I could watch. And um, also, I also liked Blockbuster because you could also find like movies that you never like seen before, and like different genres they had, like independent films and stuff like that. I also watched a lot of independent films. I still do, but when it was at Blockbuster, I found like a lot of like independent films and stuff like that. And so what also made me like films was just like what goes into making them, like the director, the producers, the actors, actresses, and how much work and time they have to put into it. And that's why I love movies, is because somebody's idea comes to life. And I just think that's so cool that like somebody writes a story or a script, and then their story comes to life on the big screen, because you never know like what that person used to come from or anything like that. So that's why my passion for movies came out, was just like seeing somebody else's story and everything like that. Well, I hope you guys liked this episode. You can find me on Instagram at Popping the Popcorn, or you can find me on Facebook at Popping the Popcorn. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you later.